Learn the latest developments surrounding Lukaku and his loan return back to Inter Milan. I'll be discussing the big interview released by Bloomberg where our new owner Todd shared his vision for our football club, and boy is it a very interesting interview. And of course, let's discuss the latest on Raheem Sterling, as it's starting to come out now that he is a main target now for this summer. And of course, I gotta share my thoughts and opinions behind why, so I hope you guys definitely enjoy. I'm hoping that by this weekend, this run is going to be literally like out my life completely. Today's been a heat wave in the UK. I've not had a great day personally, you guys. So apologies about this video's coming out so late. So your love, your support means a lot right now. So if I can get over 2k likes, that'll make me a very happy guy. Without wasting any more time, right now, let's discuss the big interview released by Bloomberg where they interviewed our new owner, Todd. We learned a ton of things behind how he sees the future of the club from a commercial aspect, as well as the potential of the Premier League as well, plus a lot more, you guys. So, to start with things, of course, Todd said that the Premier League does remain deeply undervalued and has a ton of potential. Now, he used a very fascinating example. Essentially, with the NFL, for example, there's 170 million fans, and that generates around 15 billion a year. Comparing that to football fans, there's about 4 billion fans in European football. So the market potential, of course, is even greater. Todd also believes that there are revenue opportunities now from sports gambling, better marketing of players as well as reward benefits now for fans who continue to buy season tickets as well too. This is quite interesting, of course. Let's talk about the player market potential. There was an example used of LeBron James, of course, famous basketball player who has like literally teams around him, just sorting out his businesses, for example. And how much money has LeBron James made outside of basketball on top of the incredible money he's making as a player already? This is where there's potential to make money from them, because if you're in business with these guys, it means you're earning cuts from them. And I do feel like with our club, there are a lot of potentially big marketable players with us. Now to move on, Todd also believes that the Premier League, of course, could be doing even more in that sense. Essentially, technology could play a big part in helping to, revolutionize the Premier League. And by doing so, of course, this creates a lot of revenue opportunities as well. And these are some of the exact strategies that Todd used. Let's use his ownership of the LA Dodgers as an example. Currently, they really are investing in tech. For example, they have, fan experiences that involve things like augmented reality. So you guys can imagine the possibilities around that. That's giving us a very interesting insight into the future, maybe of the fan experience that us fans can expect to see over the next few seasons. But of course, continue on. Todd also had some thoughts on when it comes to the Big Six in the Premier League now becoming a Big Seven due to the influx of the petrodollar billionaires now from the East, from Newcastle. I guess in total that could make the Premier League even more marketable due to the sheer amount of quality teams with big money constantly competing against each other. But that's not all, you guys. We also got some insight behind how Todd is planning to use data analysis as a big tool for player recruitment in the future. Now, we're not going to see signs of this in this current window because he's literally just taken over and he hasn't literally put in the guys he wants in the board at this point in time, but I'm assuming from following windows we will see the evidence and the benefits of this new way of recruiting. Now, it's not completely new to us, but I think for me, the difference is, listen, we've always been a club that's able to spot the best of talents. I mean, you look at most players in the Premier League now, they've spent some time in their careers at Cobham at one point before going on and being released. We've had some of the best guys in the world, like Kylian Mbappe as a teenager, part of the academy as well too. So we know how to spot the talent. For me, it's a case of decision making from all that data. And for me, it's quite poor. And it's not good enough. And I think it kind of just summarizes and reflects this type of hobbyist approach to how the club was being run under previous ownership. And I think this is something that Todd himself is actually touching upon because, of course, he's discussed how financial fair play, for example, is very important. And it means that you have to be even more precise with how you deal and move in the market. And with us, we've had too many financial woes and ills where if we didn't have Roman previously, able to just help us through these moments, and it was anyone else, things look dramatically worse. So I think that's a reality that has to be accepted. And now that's accepted, it can be improved upon. And I guess this ends things nicely with his observations surrounding Liverpool. As he himself said, if you look at the models that are very successful, Liverpool is a great model. Liverpool generates a couple of 100 million more revenue than Chelsea, and they generate earnings. So I think there is an opportunity to compete. If there's one thing, and I think that's more than valid, and I think that a lot of you viewers watching me too, like especially over the seasons as well, a lot of us have had this same type of realization and observations when it comes to how Liverpool have been able to, really just climb up the ranks now. Ultimately, the thing that created that success is that unifying vision, which is right at the top and goes all the way down to the bottom. That's what you need. You need to have a clear idea and vision. I think that's what BOEHLY understands. That's why he's told Tuchel, listen, for this window, not all windows, this window in particular, you will have a say on how you want the squad to be constructed. So what do you guys think of the future of Chelsea Football Club in the Premier League? Let us know in the comment section below. Now we move on to the next story, and let's discuss the news surrounding Raheem Sterling. Now we know that Gabriel Jesus is looking more likely now to be signing for Arsenal. A lot of that is based on the fact that he's going to get guaranteed game time there, plus of course his contractual demands are being met. But we know he was offered to us, but the reason why we've not exercised that right now is that our main focus is more on Raheem Sterling over someone like him. Now, Sterling has a year left before his contract does expire, and City are going to want between 50 to 60 mil. Of course, he's on incredible wages at Man City, very, very big ones. So you'd imagine that we're more than comfortable to meet those demands to sign the player. So I wanted to use this little brief, tiny story as a way to share my thoughts and opinions. And I'll keep things brutally real. I think he's a good player. I've got a lot of respect for Sterling. I think a lot of the things said against his character and his name have been absolutely outrageous, and it's really annoyed me. And, I think he's a good guy as well too. But in terms of it being a deal that excites me, I'm sorry, it just doesn't do it for me. And I can't give you like proper strong footballing reasons to really back my point. I'm just being honest and telling you it's just my preference. And I just want to see someone that comes in that is able to bring an entertainment factor. I'm sorry, football's very expensive and I like to be entertained. Seeing Eden Hazard, I miss that guy so much. I'm not saying that we can sign someone who's an identical version of him, but I want someone to give me that feel of, wow, I can't wait to watch this again because I get to see him be majestic on the field. I think for me, Sterling is just super functional. I think with how he's developed as he's got older a lot too. I think his dribbling style relies more upon like his pace, not necessarily his skill and ability on the ball. I think that's why maybe Pep's using more as like a wide forward, and I think his finishing is very interesting. I think the reason why he scores a lot of goals is because he gets in incredible positions, and you can only get there if you're very intelligent and understand when to time your runs and how to, of course, get in these positions inside the box. So hence him scoring a lot of tap-ins, I guess you could say. But let's not take it away. He does score the odd banger every now and then. But in general, like his finishing technique, I wouldn't say is excellent. And he has an opportunity of missing big game chances at times as seasons still go on. I feel like the fact that maybe Pep is okay with letting him go by getting replacements for him now in Grealish, who's more of like a, ball to feet type of guy, skillful from the ball to create havoc, makes a lot of sense. Would I be cynical in saying that, of course, if you're playing for like, the most creative offensive team in the country, that you're bound to get, a ton of stats? You guys, for me, stats just doesn't ultimately determine how I see players completely, because for me, it's more about what I actually see my own two eyes on the fields. Stats can make anyone look good, but the numbers don't really explain the quality behind what is being done to create those numbers to begin with. I just think that Sterling coming would just kind of epitomize like a very functional way of us playing, where it's all about movement off the ball, moving as a team, when sometimes it's got to be a bit of both. And I don't know. It's going to come down to the quality of our dominance in the final thirds, the service we look to create. I think Sterling, of course, would get goals for us, but is he someone that will take the game by the scruff of the neck and change the dynamics in our favour? No, he's not that guy. At Man City, was he constantly dropping like 8 out of 10s week in, week out? Absolutely not. A lot of times he's just doing what he has to do to a very high level, and at times having like good runs of form, mixed in with bad runs of form as well too. So just looking at stats and just seeing the goals scored throughout is just not enough for me, considering the context of him playing at Man City. And yeah, I think ultimately, to end my point, my thing is, if you sign him, this is an incredible commitment where you're committing to having him in the team for years to come, because he's on incredible money, will cost you a lot of money, and his transfer value is going to cost a lot. So that means that if there was any like big players or exciting young ones to come through in the market in the next few years, it means that we might not be able to even make a move for them, because there might not be space for them to begin with, because you can't move players out because they're on big contracts and big deals. So I just think that ultimately I've always had this vision of us being a club where, you know, after we signed Havertz and, you know, seeing your Jameses and guys coming into the team, I honestly thought the strategy was to sign, like, you know, these top potential youngsters, with us being able to offer them money, the ability to win, London lifestyle. If they're spending big money, I don't think it should be on Sterling, in my opinion. But that's only my opinion, you guys. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. So right now, let's end things by discussing the latest loan news on Romelu Lukaku. Now, as we already know, Inter Milan had a 5 mil loan fee bid rejected. We want 15 million euros. However, it seems like we are more than happy to find a middle point with Inter Milan between maybe 10 to even 12 million euros, depending on reports you're reading from. Essentially, bonuses are being explored and possible player exchanges too, involving loans or potential transfer fees, of course, involving players like Bastoni, Skriniar and Dumfries. They're the only ones. I'm not going to give deep dives into all three players. I think I've done that enough throughout the month. You guys will find the videos in the link above, of course. But realistically, I guess the main ones possibly could be Skriniar, due to him negotiating already with Paris Saint-Germain. And of course, Dumfries with Inter Milan, you know, okay with letting a rotational player leave, but there has to be like a good fee returned in for the player, or a possible loan in the opposite direction. But regardless, even though we're waiting for this deal to wrap up, the big positive is that, of course, everything currently is in the trajectory of this deal finally going through before the end of this month. And the end of this month is important because, of course, this is where Inter Milan can exercise the growth decree law in Italy, which essentially is going to give them like a tax reduction basically on Lukaku's wages. And this is why it's so key. And this is why all parties currently are focusing their attentions on getting this deal done. You have to see it like this, you guys. Lukaku is by far the most expensive player at this club. We already know that him and Thomas Tuchel don't see eye to eye ideologically. You know, Lukaku feels like he didn't get enough support from the player. Todd Boehly, who has a good relationship alongside Lukaku, does feel like there must be a way for this guy to be able to actually work here. You know, he's got a contract till 2026. However, because he's given full support to Tuchel, it means that he is going to respect his manager's wishes. And of course, it's believed that all parties feel like a loan return back to Inter Milan will be beneficial regardless. Now, of course, some reports in Italy currently are saying that Inter Milan have already booked spots and places now for Lukaku's medical, which would happen in the next few days. And they've booked a few days for this potential medical, which is good news to hear. But I have to say that some of the reports coming out from England and Italy, I think it's too harsh to say they're conflicting, but I think they're reporting on things from two different angles and sides, which makes more sense, as the English reporters are getting their stuff from the club, and I'm sure the Italian ones are getting it from Inter Milan. Things are heating up even more, and he is the most important player to move on before we can start to do things right now. Number one, we have to realize that the main priority now is signing defenders, because defenders have already left, so they're at the top. Number two is then going to be attacking players, but a lot of that comes down to selling players first. Lukaku has interest in him, but Pulisic, Ziyech and Werner have no interest currently at this point in time, which is going to make things harder when it comes to signing other attacking players to replace these guys. We need the interest for them. And of course, finally, you know, due to the sheer finances and the fact that him and Tuchel don't see eye to eye and want to work together, you know, you can't afford for his valuation to deplete even more when he's on over 300k a week. Think about the business. This would be absolutely awful. So currently it's good that this deal is going through, because if it didn't, let's say hypothetically it didn't go through, I'd imagine that there'd have to be a bit of like a workaround from Tuchel to at least try to get something from the player, just so we can actually afford to have him. You know, I get the argument from some people, Lukaku didn't do enough to, you know, adapt, but let's be realistic. I mean, the guy's 29 years old, about to turn 30. Who changes their game at their age? You know, when you sign players like him in their prime, you're signing them to use them in the exact specific way that makes them who they are. I mean, we've been down this route a million times as fans. Torres, Morata, even Timo Werner. Strikers that never got to play their natural game. Yeah, they did the donkey work, the hard work to, I guess, get bare minimum respect from the fans. But for me, ultimately, at the end of the day, quality and goals matter. And, you know, there's a habit of strikers who just end up becoming workhorse donkeys. And I don't think Lukaku is here to do that. So it makes sense that all parties decide it's best for him to move on. So you guys, on that note, that's today's video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'm hoping I feel better for tomorrow, you guys. So I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. Catch you guys there with some more videos.